under a sky that boiled with amber dust and the flicker of three suns. Too real, one a malfunctioning atmospheric projection that nobody had bothered to recalibrate in decades. Jace Arden walked into the sandglass market with a half-charged plasma dagger and the vague hope of not getting mugged by something with more than 3 arms. He had landed his rust-scabbed freighter, the hemispherical Regret Asterisk, on the outskirts of Lysara IV's southernmost trading colony, a location that looked like a junkyard had mated with a cathedral. Towers of twisted alloys groaned in the heat, crowned with humming antennae and flapping prayer cloths. Everywhere you looked, there was noise. Clanging metal, haggling merchants, and at least one species that communicated entirely through synchronized burping. Jace had seen worse. Once, on Elthon Prime, he'd witnessed a mating ritual that involved interpretive dance and live bees. But even for him, the sandglass market was weird. He pushed past a stall selling reanimated taxidermy, alive again, and deeply confused, and stopped in front of a kiosk offering retrofitted Earth tech. The merchant, a squat being with the texture of boiled leather and a monocle fused to its forehead, eyed him with the gleam of capitalism. Fuel cells? Jace asked, hoping his accent wouldn't trigger another diplomatic incident. He'd insulted a Trelec ambassador once by mispronouncing the word for bargain, accidentally calling her a mucus tyrant. The vendor made a warbling sound that might have been a yes or an allergic reaction. Jace nodded, began negotiating, and was just about to finalize a trade involving 2 Terran batteries and a half-used tin of spicy air, when a voice sliced through the chaos like cold water through smoke. That man just bartered a substandard thermal coil for a deconstructed gravity lens. Jace turned, slowly. She stood at the edge of the crowd, tall, cloaked in deep cobalt fabric that shimmered like it resented being touched, and utterly unbothered by the marketplace around her. Her skin was a pale opaline hue, her eyes reflective and liquid silver, and her asterisk ears were long asterisk, arcing backward like sculpted crescent moons. Not just long, elegant, regal, dangerous. She looked human if humans were built by engineers who had finally mastered restraint. "Excuse me," Jace said stupidly, always his strongest opening line. "You were being swindled," she said, stepping closer. Her cloak shifted, revealing a belt lined with tools and something that looked suspiciously like a personal disintegrator. "Unless you enjoy trading high-grade tech for ornamental garbage." The vendor hissed, literally hissed. "Hey, maybe I like ornamental garbage," Jace muttered. "You don't," she replied. Then very deliberately she picked up the gravity lens, examined it, and turned to the merchant. "You will accept half the price and an apology for attempted fraud." The vendor grumbled but complied fast, too fast. One look from her and the crowd seemed to shrink away. "Who are you?" Jace asked, part curiosity, part survival instinct. She tilted her head slightly. "Vyrlia of House Ilaran." That meant nothing to him. Then she reached into the folds of her cloak and produced something unexpected. A blade. Not a weapon, not exactly. It was ceremonial, ornate, with a handle of carved crystal and a slender metallic edge that hummed with dormant energy. The kind of thing you gave someone as a gift, or maybe used to knight them. Or possibly to signal the beginning of a duel-to-the-death/wedding, depending on planetary customs. She held it out to him. "For your honesty and your confusion," she said calmly. Jace blinked. "Wait, what? Are you giving me a knife because I look confused?" She nodded with the air of someone offering a very normal explanation for a deeply unnormal act. "Yes." He looked at the blade. It shimmered, it pulsed, it vibrated like it had opinions. Accepting gifts from strangers wasn't generally high on his list of survival tactics, but she was waiting, and he didn't want to be rude. He reached out, took the blade by its hilt. And the air changed. Every sound in the market stopped. The whisper of voices, the grind of gears, even the mournful squeak of the screaming cucumbers stand, gone. Dozens of eyes, some of them biological, others digital or on retractable stalks, turned to him. Then movement. From beneath a rusting archway, a group of elder Lysari emerged. Tall, draped in ceremonial armor that looked like it had been grown instead of forged, and moving with the slow grace of beings who considered time a negotiable concept. They stopped in front of him and bowed deeply. Jace looked around to see if someone had maybe collapsed behind him or spontaneously combusted. No such luck. All eyes were on him. Asterisk. Someone coughed. Someone else dropped a cyber pomegranate. Jace said, holding the blade like it was a snake dressed for a wedding. "Is this like a normal thank you thing around here?" Vyrlia stepped beside him, serene as a moon tide. "You accepted the blade." Yes, he said slowly. Yes, because you handed it to me. You accepted the asterisk binding asterisk. A translator chime pinged softly in his ear. Ceremonial binding confirmed. Clanmate status achieved. Recalibrating social protocols. No, he said, backing up. No, 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 I don't want to be bound to anything, especially not a culture I just insulted by buying a defective lens. It's done, she said, turning to the elders. He is mine now. I'm who's what now? He croaked. One of the elders, a towering woman with golden skin and what appeared to be live flora growing from her collarbone, spoke in solemn tones. The blade does not lie. The bond is forged, you are clan. The crowd erupted, not in violence, but in respectful nods, alien ululations, and at least one celebratory juggling act involving glowing stones. Violia turned to him, mildly amused. You may need a new name. Jace sounds like a soft root vegetable. Excuse me, I'll have you know Jace's. Wait, hold on. Did you just marry me? She raised one long ear. Not married. Bound, there is a difference. And that difference is, in marriage you can leave. He was about to faint. The blade pulsed again like it agreed. In the chaos that followed, gifts offered, hands shaken, a formal speech delivered by a sentient mushroom, Jace could only cling to one terrible truth. He had no idea what he'd just gotten himself into. But apparently, he belonged to a clan now, and possibly to her asterisk. The interior of the Ilaran clan fortress was less a building, and more a philosophical debate about architecture performed by drunk alien poets with a fondness for vertigo. Jace tried not to gape as the gate swallowed him whole. An actual gate, by the way, with edges that shimmered like evaporating ice, and an opening animation that probably required its own GPU. The instant he passed through the threshold, gravity hiccuped. He lurched forward as his boots left the ground for a heartbeat, the weight of the alien blade on his hip anchoring him just enough to keep him from floating into what looked like a chandelier made of orbiting bones and softly hissing crystal spheres. Welcome to your new home, Violia said in her usual calm, regal, emotionally unreadable tone. She glided ahead as if she'd grown up in an M.C. Escher painting, and the furniture had just decided to obey her. Jace followed, trying not to trip on the sloped corridor that curved upward and sideways at the same time. Why does this hallway spiral like a corkscrew? Is it supposed to encourage vomiting? It strengthens the legs and purifies intention, she said without looking back. It's making me pure in several unintended ways. The fortress pulsed with energy, not just electrical but something older, stranger. He could feel it in the air, taste it faintly, like ozone, rust, and the moment before a thunderclap. The walls weren't made of metal or stone in any traditional sense. They grew. Vined ridges, glowing veins, symbiotic mosses that occasionally blinked. In the distance, a melody drifted through the corridors, soft and chiming, though he couldn't tell if it came from a musical instrument or the building itself. I don't suppose there's like a visitor pamphlet? He asked. Violia paused near a vertical archway that blinked and then irised open like an eyeball. You are not a visitor. Right clanmate, soulbound. Possibly married, but definitely not. In a strictly binding, spiritually contractual, non-divorceable way, he rubbed his temples. This was supposed to be a pit stop, he muttered. Now it is a starting point, Violia replied. You will find quarters suitable for your physiology through this hall. Adjustments have been made. And by adjustments you mean less acidic humidity, fewer neural singing spores, one bed. That last part sounds mildly threatening. Then it is working. The door slid closed behind him, leaving Jace alone in a suite that looked like someone had taken inspiration from a jellyfish and a spaceship lounge, and then decided to fuse the concepts with psychic glue. The walls were semi-transparent and shifted hues based on proximity, glowing dim lavender as he stepped further in. The bed was alive, possibly breathing, but comfortable, surprisingly. A small orb hovered near the ceiling and chimed. Welcome, Jace Arden. You are now bonded. Please confirm if your diet includes gelatinous proteins, carbon-based sugars, or small insects. Only one of those, he said, flopping onto the bed. The orb beeped approvingly and zoomed away through a wall vent, leaving behind a tray of something blue and squishy. He didn't eat it, not yet. He needed a second to breathe, or 10. He woke to the sound of humming, soft, low, almost human. He blinked. The bed had dimmed its glow for sleep, the walls cooling to midnight blue. And there she was, seated near the far corner, eyes half closed, tuning the blade he now realized never left his side. You sleep like a crash-landed mammal, she said without looking up. He yawned. You spy on all your clanmates in their pajamas. I do not spy, I observe. You snore, very softly, it is almost musical. Oh, is that a compliment? No, it is a statistical observation. He stretched, looking around. So, let's say hypothetically someone accidentally accepts a ceremonial weapon and accidentally becomes clan. Any chance they can unclan themselves? No, she said. Then after a pause, not without exile, ritual disintegration, or being consumed by the clan worm. Wait, that last one. Not used in centuries, she added. Mostly for motivational purposes. Very motivational, he muttered. I feel extremely inspired to remain alive. She stood, walking over with that same smooth glide that seemed immune to gravity or embarrassment. You must learn our customs, she said. Our weapons. Our laws, the duties of clanhood are not ceremonial. Jace exhaled. And I guess I was just trying to be polite doesn't hold up in court here. You did not receive a dinner invitation. You received me. That sentence hovered between them like a hovering grenade. He tried to laugh, but it came out thin and confused. You know, where I come from, when someone gives you a knife, it usually means they don't like you. On Lysara, she said, holding the blade between them, a blade is a piece of soul. Giving it is not a matter of affection, it is a matter of fate. Cool, no pressure. That was when the floor beneath them shimmered. Not a tremor exactly, more a ripple. The walls whispered. Violia turned to the corner. Someone approaches. Friendly. Unlikely. A moment later, the wall peeled open. Not a door so much as a suggestion of one. And in stepped a being that could only be described as a tapestry come to life. 8 limbs all wrapped in ceremonial silk, 4 eyes each blinking at different speeds, and a hovering datapad translating its words into accented English. I am Archivist T. Lam, the voice droned. Here to verify the binding. Prepare for verification ritual. Wait, verify? Jace asked. We're still at the verification stage. I thought I was already halfway to getting a clan tattoo and naming my first hovergoat. Violia touched his shoulder lightly. It is merely protocol. T-Lam extended a spindly limb. Touch the blade together, state your names, swear by the dust of stars. This sounds like a wedding, Jace mumbled. It is nothing of the sort, Violia replied. Then quietly, but do not smile. It may be misread as consent for cohabitation bonding. They touched the blade together. It glowed, hummed, then whispered a word into his mind, his new name, a Lysari name. Foreign, alien, and yet not unwelcome. As T-Lam vanished into the walls, leaving behind a faint smell of archival ink and cinnamon, Jace collapsed back onto the bed. This is all happening so fast, he muttered. You are part of us now, Violia said, eyes watching him with the calm of someone who had just domesticated a particularly talkative stray. Adaptation is not optional. Do I at least get a manual? She smiled, a rare thing. Like the sun blinking, you get me. Oh no, he whispered. Oh yes, she replied. The training chamber was an insult to physics. Jace stood at the center of the arena, arms limp at his sides, trying to understand how a room could be both a cube and a sphere at the same time. The floor curved slightly upward in every direction. The ceiling shimmered like oil in water, and the walls kept shifting between translucent crystal and what appeared to be projected constellations, moving in patterns that defied star maps and common sense. He was 90% sure the room was alive and 5% sure it was judging him. The remaining 5% was sweat. You built this room to confuse people, didn't you? He asked, already out of breath despite having done nothing except look around nervously. Violia stood across from him, motionless and poised, holding her blade with the serene confidence of a creature that had never once stubbed a toe. Her long ears twitched slightly as she considered him. This room is a training nexus, she said. Its geometry is reactive, it reshapes based on intention. So my intention to lie down and take a nap would. The floor would vanish. He stared at her. You're joking. I am not. A pause, then, okay. But that was the asterisk right asterisk kind of joke, for the record. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I do not tell jokes, I offer truth. That's exactly what someone with a perfect deadpan would say. Before she could respond with something philosophical and mildly threatening, the floor beneath him buzzed. Not vibrated, buzzed like it was humming in disapproval. He looked down. A glowing pattern bloomed beneath his boots in the shape of a spiral. Immediately, the walls surged outward and upward, and a small hovering orb zipped into view. It made a sharp chirp and projected a hologram. A list of lesson modules titled Asterisk, Blade Assimilation, Initiate Tier. Jace groaned. Oh no, there's a syllabus. You will begin with Form 1, Violia announced. Basic bonding. I already bonded the blade, he said. Remember, dramatic ceremony, you stood ominously in candlelight, I panicked. Good times. You bonded physically, she replied. Now it must respond. He glanced at the blade hanging from his hip. It had a subtle hum to it, like a dormant engine or an irritated pet. The hilt was cool, sleek, faintly textured like flowing water frozen in place. He gripped it and drew it out. Instantly, the arena responded. Gravity tilted, just a little, not enough to fall, enough to make his stomach reconsider its current location. Is it supposed to do that? He asked. It reacts to the wielder's balance. Fantastic. You gave me a sentient gyroscope. Violia approached, her own blade glowing faintly, a soft harmonic hum surrounding her. She moved with terrifying grace, taking a stance that looked half-dance, half-lurking predator. Now, she said, mirror me. Jace tried. He raised the blade, bent his knees, and immediately discovered that his left thigh had strong opinions about this angle. His attempt to mimic her turned into something between a yoga pose and an escape attempt from invisible spiders. Balance, Violia said, correcting his shoulders with 2 fingers. You are a spine with arms, bend your axis. That sounds made up. Most truths are. He exhaled, tried again. This time he found the center just barely. The blade in his hand pulsed, a soft warmth threading through his palm. He felt it not just a weapon, but something old, listening, testing. Better, she said. Now form 1, 3 movements, then stillness. She demonstrated. 3 precise arcs, a diagonal slash, a rotation above the head, and a swift cut through the air that made a faint shimmering rift, like the space had folded for a blink. He mimicked the movements, sort of. His first slash wobbled, his overhead arc nearly smacked the hovering orb, and the final move made the blade emit what he swore was a sigh. It hates me, he muttered. I knew it. The blade is alive, Violia admitted. It judges worthiness. Awesome, I'm being graded by alien Excalibur. But something shifted as he repeated the moves. On the 3rd try, the blade vibrated gently. On the 4th, it glowed faintly, as if considering forgiveness. And during a moment between slashes, Jace caught a glimpse of Violia's expression. Very subtle, but there it was, a flicker of approval, or perhaps relief. Not terrible, she said. He grinned. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all week. Before she could counter with another withering observation, a loud chime echoed through the chamber. The hovering orb froze, the air stiffened. A second projection flickered to life, showing the sharp-featured face of a Lysari elder. His hair was braided into a crown, his ears tipped in gold rings. His voice came through with solemn weight. Violia. The council requests immediate presence. There has been an inquiry. She turned her head, a shadow passing over her calm exterior. What kind of inquiry? Regarding the off-worlder, the elder said, eyes shifting to Jace. Some question the legitimacy of the binding. Define some, Jace said, raising a hand. House Varnax, the elder replied. And others, the matter will be brought before the circle of verification. Jace blinked. Wait. I already passed the binding test. I did the ritual. The Whispering Blade called me Trellin or Trallin or... Torin, Violia corrected. It is the name chosen for you. Yeah, that one, I have a new name. Isn't that enough? It was, she said, face tightening. But the Varnax, they challenge because they fear change. Classic space politics, he muttered. You try to accept a soul blade politely, and suddenly you're an interstellar controversy. Violia turned to the projection. I will attend the council, prepare the chamber. The elder nodded and vanished. Jace lowered his blade. So what happens if they decide I'm not legitimate? Violia sheathed her own weapon, stepping closer. Then you will be cast out. He tried to shrug. Well, I guess I could go back to drifting between planets and eating questionable ration paste. Could be worse. No, she said softly. You would not survive the casting. Oh. Her expression didn't change, but her next words carried the weight of stone. You belong to us now, and I will not allow them to take that. Jace looked at her, the poised alien warrior with starlight in her blood and a blade that sang in the dark, and felt something unexpected. He wasn't afraid, he was furious. Then let's give them a damn good reason to regret challenging me, he said, right after I figure out how to do that ceiling swipe thing without injuring myself. The diplomatic skiff that ferried them to the Zethyrus moon was shaped like a question mark and smelled faintly of licorice and ionized air. Jace sat on a seat that appeared to be made of folded light and regretted most of his life choices. "I'm just saying," he muttered, adjusting the ceremonial collar that kept inching up to choke him like a very polite snake. "If I accidentally started a clan war with a muffin, I feel like I should be allowed to stay on the ship." "You offered the Varnax heir a baked good without formal declaration," Vyrlia said, eyes forward. "In their dialect, that translates as, 'I challenge your lineage to a trial of ritual violence.'" "It was banana nut," Jace said. "That's practically a peace treaty." Vyrlia said nothing, which for her was equivalent to sighing dramatically. The ship descended through the thick clouds of Zetheris, its hull whispering as it cut through vapor laced with bioluminescent spores. Outside, shapes floated in the atmosphere, massive, jellyfish-like beings that pulsed with soft light, their tendrils trailing trails of electric mist. "This place looks like someone crossbred a lava lamp with a gas giant," Jace said. "It is sacred territory," Vyrlia replied. "All clans are bound by treaty to speak only truth on Zetheris." "Wait, only truth?" She nodded. "Lies are detected by the moon." "Detected by—" Before he could finish the question, a soft chime echoed inside the ship, followed by a polite female voice. "Caution! Misleading statements will result in localized gravitational discomfort." "See," Vyrlia said, completely deadpan. "Gravitational discomfort sounds like something my stomach already does on its own." The skiff docked at a floating platform, suspended over a glowing lake of liquid nitrogen and methane foam. Clan banners fluttered in the atmospheric pressure, some stitched from nanothread, others projected in quantum ribbon code. Representatives from at least 8 clans were present, each accompanied by guards, advisors, and one clan that had brought a large, semi-translucent cube that emitted a low-frequency hum and smelled like mint. Jace stepped onto the platform and immediately regretted wearing the traditional Lysari boots, which had no grip, no heel, and seemed designed by someone who hated ankles. Vyrlia, of course, walked as if the floor was merely an extension of her will. They were led to the grand dialogue chamber, a circular space where the air buzzed with anticipation and translation drones floated like oversized fireflies. At the center sat the moderator, a six-eyed, multi-jointed being named High Speaker Renvel, who appeared to be woven entirely from organic filaments and bureaucracy. Vyrlia bowed. Jace mimicked the motion and nearly pulled a hamstring. "Clan Alarin stands," Renvel intoned. "Clan Varnax also stands," came another voice, sharp and cold. A tall figure stepped forward, clad in obsidian armor etched with crimson runes. His ears were longer than Vyrlia's, sharper too, and his expression was the kind of serious that could curdle milk. "I am Airforged Kalen of Varnax. I challenge the validity of the off-worlder's binding." "Hi," Jace said, waving. "Love what you've done with your cheekbones. Very aerodynamic." Kalen stared at him like one might stare at a beetle attempting taxes. Renvel gestured with a dozen limbs. "State your grievance." "The outsider," Kalen said, "knows nothing of our customs, our laws, or our legacy. He accepted the Heartblade in ignorance. This is a desecration." "The Heartblade chose him," Vyrlia said evenly. "Perhaps it malfunctioned." Jace leaned toward her. Do sacred weapons malfunction here?" "Only once," she said. "It chose a goat." "It was the goat. The goat is now honored in song. Do not mock it." "I would never mock a goat of legend." Kalen stepped forward. "Let him prove his worth. Let him undergo the trial of convergence." "Wait," Jace said. "Trial of what now?" Renvel nodded slowly. "It is the old way, nonviolent, mostly. Each participant must answer 3 truths, one of the self, one of the other, and one of the void." "The void. Existential truth, cosmic reflection, that sort of thing." "Oh good," Jace said. A pop quiz hosted by the universe itself. A platform rose beneath him, lifting him into the center of the chamber. The lights dimmed. The crowd quieted. Even the cube being seemed to hush. A single floating orb appeared before him. It glowed faintly, then spoke in his voice. "Speak the truth of yourself." He stared at it. "I'm Jace Arden, human, former cargo pilot, unintended diplomat. Terrible with formality, allergic to social pressure, and recently soul-bound to an alien warrior who may or may not be developing a sense of humor." A soft chime rang. Approval. "Speak the truth of another." He glanced at Vyrlia. "She acts like she doesn't care," he said slowly, "but she watches everything, protects everything. She says it's duty. I think it's more. I think she cares too much and hides it behind form and tradition. And that blade she gave me, she didn't give it by accident, she knew. Another chime, Violia blinked once. Speak the truth of the void. Jace inhaled, looked up at the glowing sky above, thought of stars, of choices, of the fact that a week ago he was worried about coffee and engine repairs, and now he was being judged by ancient cosmic AI over a sacred muffin incident. The universe doesn't care what we plan asterisk. It laughs at plans. But sometimes, if you fall into the chaos head first, it gives you something better than what you were looking for. I didn't come here to belong. But now I think I do. The orb pulsed once, then dimmed. Renvel rose. The truths are accepted, the bond stands. The chamber erupted in sound, some celebratory, some muttered with discontent. Kaelin's face twisted. Violia stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on Jace's shoulder. It is done, she said. Does this mean I'm officially part of the cool kids' table? You are now our asterisk responsibility. Charming, he said. And here I thought I'd peaked with the goat's song. They left the chamber amid noise and light, and somewhere behind them, the sacred cube emitted a musical note that sounded suspiciously like applause. The fortress of Clan Alarin stood under a pale teal sky, its towers coiled like serpents rising through clouds that shimmered with magnetized dew. The winds carried the scent of scorched stone and crushed stardust. Repairs were underway, but the walls still bore the scars of recent violence, charred metal, scorched glyphs, and one suspiciously melted statue that had once commemorated a very famous philosopher who'd made the mistake of arguing with a war beast. Jace stood in what used to be the outer meditation hall, now repurposed as a tactical coordination chamber. The floor panels had been hastily patched with scraps from orbital drone wings, and the floating lights above flickered with mild anxiety. Around him, Lysari engineers scuttled about, some with mechanical limbs, others wrapped in reactive cloaks that changed color to match their thoughts. I still can't believe they sent an assassin, Jace muttered, peering at a map projected from the wall. You were marked, said Violia, pacing along a shallow ridge in the floor where the energy currents shifted like liquid glass. You bear the Heartblade. There are those who see your presence as a threat to order. I mean, sure, Jace said, but it's not like I'm issuing revolutionary decrees or anything. I mostly complain about boot friction and ask a lot of annoying questions. That is asterisk revolutionary, she said without turning. In this culture. Right, forgot I'm the poster boy for dangerous behavior. She looked over at him, one long ear tilting as if testing the air. You survived the assassin. Barely. I tripped over a ceremonial lamp, and it startled him long enough for the floor to eat his weapon. It was quick thinking. It was gravity, he said, and possibly divine clumsiness. She almost smiled, almost. Jace exhaled and glanced down at the blade sheathed at his side. It felt heavier lately, not in weight but in presence. As if it had begun listening to his thoughts, judging his moods, waiting. He hadn't spoken to it, not that he knew how, but he suspected it would eventually speak first. Probably during a panic attack or while brushing his teeth. Above them a chime sounded, not a gentle one. This was the fortress alert, low, deliberate, coded through harmonic resonance to stir the gut before the mind caught up. Violia's expression sharpened. They've breached the western perimeter. Wait, who breached? Unknown but approaching fast. The air shimmered as the room's central platform split open, revealing a semi-translucent war table. It projected a 3D overlay of the surrounding landscape, ridges, valleys, and the glowing heat signatures of incoming threats. Jace leaned over. That's a lot of heat signatures. 3 assault craft, said Violia, studying the projections. One with cloaking partially failed. The other 2 are using oscillating resonance shields, Varnak's design. Oh good. I missed them. She turned to him. This isn't just an attack. They're here for you. He blinked. They already tried to discredit me politically and existentially. Isn't a targeted strike a little overdramatic? This is a message, to me, to the clan. Right, because me getting blown up is such a great diplomatic gesture. Violia activated a concealed panel in the floor. A section of the wall peeled back, revealing a narrow corridor lit by crimson emergency glyphs. You're going to the underlevels. I'm sorry, did you just say underlevels? That's always where things go horribly wrong in stories like this. There's a shielded chamber beneath the Hall of Storm Memory. It's used for archive vaulting and, historically, awkward family negotiations. Jace hesitated. Do I get a guard? You get Gorm. The name echoed slightly. And then, with a hiss of compressed air and a faint aroma of toasted herbs, a small hover unit floated out from the shadows. It looked like a cross between a teapot and a multi-tool, with glowing optical sensors and retractable limbs. "I remember you," Jace said. "You tried to brew my soul last week." "Incorrect," said Gorm in a crisp accent. "I offered you an emotionally clarifying infusion." "He'll keep you safe," Violia said, pressing something into Jace's hand. It was a small, triangular object, warm to the touch and humming with latent energy. A beacon. "If I fall, activate it." "I don't like how easily you said that." "There's no time." Outside, the sky cracked open with the thunder of plasma fire. The ground shook. Distant screams. Energy barriers flaring. Violia drew her blade. It flared with an otherworldly light, illuminating her features like a myth made flesh. "Go," she said. Jace nodded, one hand on the hilt of his own blade. It felt suddenly awake, alert, like it had been waiting for this moment. He ran. The corridors of the underlevels were older. Some of the glyphs here were unreadable, etched by ancestors who believed in long sentences and aggressive calligraphy. The walls whispered occasionally, not voices, just the hum of centuries-old resonance cores adjusting to unfamiliar presence. Gorm floated beside him, unbothered by the chaos. "Your heart rate is elevated." "Yeah, I've been told fleeing death tends to do that." "I can administer a sedative if panic becomes inconvenient." "Let's save that for after the laser fire." They turned a corner, the floor sloping down, deeper into the vaults. The further they went, the more the fortress seemed to change tone. Less ceremonial, more functional. Wires glinted beneath crystalline walls. Surveillance drones buzzed faintly overhead, scanning for bioanomalies. "Tell me something," Jace said between breaths. "Was this what Violia wanted when she gave me the blade?" "Her reasons were her own. Helpful. But if she did not trust you, the blade would have refused the bond. It is a sentient artifact forged during the symmetric revolt. It has standards. Great judged by cutlery." They reached the chamber, a dome of dark stone and humming crystal. The door responded to his touch, pulsing once before sliding open with a hiss. Inside was silence, deep, absolute. The kind that made you feel like time had paused to breathe. "Remain here," Gorm said. "I will patrol the entry paths." Jace nodded, settling into a low bench. The blade was hot now, not from use but anticipation. He waited, minutes passed, then longer, and finally *A sound. Not footsteps, not battle, something else. A whisper in the walls. A presence that didn't feel like Varnak's. He rose slowly, blade in hand. Because deep beneath the fortress, under the weight of stone and ceremony, something else had arrived. The presence in the chamber was not entirely physical. Jace stood motionless, every nerve in his body tense, the ceremonial blade trembling faintly in his hand as the air thickened around him. It was as if the room had become aware of itself, an old intelligence stirring beneath stone and circuitry. The illumination shifted from a soft bioluminescent blue to a dull amber, casting long, wavering shadows along the crystalline walls. "Gorm," he whispered, "please tell me that's you doing something strange again." No response. The little hover unit had vanished without so much as a farewell tea suggestion. Then *movement. It wasn't through the doorway or from above. It came from the wall itself. The symbols etched in the surface rippled. Not just lit up, **moved **, rearranging themselves as if responding to breath or thought or intention. Jace took a step back, blade raised. "You're trespassing," he said aloud, aiming for confident and hitting something closer to unconvincing dinner host. The voice that responded was neither male nor female. It arrived in his mind fully formed, like a memory he didn't remember making. "You were not summoned, and yet you carry the blade." The shadows deepened in one corner of the room, curling inward like smoke reversing itself. From it emerged a figure, not walking, not gliding, but * unfolding from space. Humanoid, yes, but distorted around the edges. A cloak of shifting data static, a mask that flickered with runes that refused to stay still. No visible eyes, just awareness. Jace tried to steady his breathing. "Look, I already passed a cosmic truth trial. I think I get a free pass on the mysterious specter of doom encounter." "You hold a weapon of memory," it said. "You have awakened something ancient. The bond is more than ritual." "It is a key." "To what? Because if it's an even bigger mess than the one I'm in, I'd like to formally opt out." The figure took another half step forward. Or rather, space yielded to it, like it was less a creature and more an opinion the universe hadn't finished expressing. To the vault of first thought, to the song engine, to the origin of our war. I was just trying to trade for fuel, Jace muttered. I feel like I've been upgraded without consent. The figure paused. You joke, that is good. Joking deflects the weight of truth. You will need it. Jace lowered the blade slightly. Wait, you're not trying to kill me. No, I came to warn. Oh, a beat. Well, thank you, I guess. The blade does not belong to one clan, the voice went on. It predates the divide. It remembers the unbroken line. The weapon is waking, it will seek its other half. That part hit like a thunderclap inside his skull. There's another blade, he asked, 2 shards of one whole. Split during the sundering. One kept by the Ilaran, one stolen by the Varnax. If they are reunited, so too will be the memory of what came before. Let me guess, Jay said. Nobody wants that. Some would rather forget. Some would rather remain in power. He paced, heart-pounding. So what do you want me to do? March into Varnax territory and ask for the twin blade politely. Maybe bake them a muffin again. You must survive, and remember, the blade will guide you. But beware, if it chooses the wrong voice to wield it, the past will not return as wisdom, it will return as flame. There was a faint sound now, footsteps. Real ones, heavy and fast. Violia, the shadow, turned. She must not know I was here. Why not? She believes only in her version of the truth. You must hold another. Before Jace could protest, the figure unraveled, pulling itself back into the folds of reality, vanishing as if it had never existed. The wall returned to its inert state, the glyphs fading. A second later, the door slammed open. Violia stepped in, her blade drawn, armor singed and streaked with ash. Her hair was tousled, her breath short, but her eyes scanned the chamber with the precision of a predator. You're unharmed? She demanded. I mean, physically, yes, emotionally, slightly shaken. Met a spectral memory monster that gave me cryptic warnings about twin blades and fiery history ghosts. The sky above Lysara was no longer still. Twin comets cut through the upper atmosphere like slashes from a divine blade, burning, singing, shedding fire as they crossed paths and spiraled into the dusk. Across the spired skyline, Clan Ilaran's fortress hummed with restored power. Wards repaired. Walls sealed. The great gate, once torn open by siege fire, now stood gleaming, its metallic surface engraved with a new pattern. 2 blades crossed, not in war, but in unity. Jace Arden stood beneath that gate, cloaked not in ceremonial armor, but in practical wear. Fitted tunic, travel-worn boots, a harness slung across his chest that held tools and a small cylindrical beacon that blinked softly. At his hip the blade remained, quiet, alert, utterly his. Violia stood beside him. She wore no crown, no marks of formal power, but the air around her still shifted when she moved, as if gravity politely made way. Her gaze was softer these days, though no less precise. They voted, she said, eyes on the horizon where banners rose above the assembly fields. I know, Jace said. Gorm streamed the council session to my quarters, subtitled. You are no longer a novelty, came Gorm's voice from his shoulder. The small hover unit had undergone aesthetic modifications after its last heroic detonation, now sporting a brushed alloy finish and a retractable snack dispenser. You are a citizen, clan recognized, full status. Jace exhaled. So I'm officially not getting ejected into space, that's nice. You are not just staying, Violia said, you are leading. That word still felt heavy in his mouth. Not alone. No, she agreed, never alone. The revelation about the twin blade had ignited more than curiosity. When the obelisk awoke, it triggered ancient markers embedded in the crust of Lysara, encoded resonances that had been dormant since the last convergence of clans. Varnax had denied possessing the second blade, but Jace had seen it in their vault. Carried by Kalen himself, hidden under false pretenses, a shard of memory forged in silence. What followed was not battle, but something far stranger. A negotiation. Jace had stood in the neutral moon chambers of Zetharis again, this time not as an outsider, not as a man fumbling through alien tradition, but as someone who spoke with clarity. With conviction, with a mild allergy to formal robes. You hide the blade, he had told Kalen. You hide history, but it's waking up whether you like it or not. If we don't face what was broken, it's going to break us again. To everyone's shock, including Jace's, Kalen had handed it over. I don't do this for you, he said. I do it because the past deserves a voice. When the blades met, they didn't spark or explode or sing a song of rebirth. They simply aligned, slotted together, became whole. And then they showed the truth. Memories spilled into light, holographic echoes projected from the metal itself, not scenes of war but before asterisk it. The clans unified. The original keepers, not Lysari or Varnax, but one people, one planet. A technology so advanced it transcended tools, living architecture, memory symbiotic weaponry, emotion-coded engines. Then the sundering. A betrayal not of battle, but of trust. One group refused to share knowledge with other species. Another sought to open the gates to the stars. Ideology shattered them, not blood, not fire, belief. The audience had watched in silence. Virelia's hand gripped his. Kaelin's face was carved from stone, and when it ended, nothing was the same. Now, days later, the accords were signed. A new coalition, not of conquest, but of remembrance. The twin blades, now sealed in a chamber of null gravity and monitored by both clans. Jace had refused a title. Virelia had refused to step aside. Instead, they proposed something unheard of: joint leadership. Exploration, diplomacy, outreach to the other species the ancient clans had once ignored. Jace suggested the first diplomatic gift be banana muffins. The vote narrowly failed. He smiled now as the fortress doors opened, and children poured through. Lysari and Varnax alike, wearing mismatched armor pieces and carrying training blades that glowed with soft pulses. Some ran after Gorm, who had taken to telling wildly exaggerated tales of Jace's first combat, most of which involved accidental flips and improvised traps made from furniture. Virelia's voice was quiet. "They will never know the world we knew." "Good," Jace said. "Let them build a new one." She turned to him. "You miss space." "Sometimes," he admitted. "My ship, my quiet bunk, the hum of a slow drift through the void." "You could still go." "I could," he said. "But then who would make sure Gorm doesn't start a tea rebellion?" "It was only one uprising," Gorm muttered, "and it was educational." He looked at her again. The woman who had offered him a blade with more meaning than he understood, who had trained him, challenged him, laughed at him, eventually, who had risked exile for his place in her world. "I thought I didn't belong anywhere," he said. "Turns out I just hadn't landed yet." She reached for his hand. No ceremony, just certainty. "You have, and now," she said, glancing up at the sky, "we have a fleet to build." He blinked. "Wait, what fleet?" "The stars will not come to us. We must go to them." "Are we sure the stars want visitors? Have they filled out the appropriate form?"